I'm sitting in one of our most recent projects with my brand new COVID-19 lockdown haircut. I hope you like it. This house was an absolute mess just a couple months ago, and today's video topic came as a result of a recent walkthrough of this property with a buddy of mine as we were wrapping it up. You know, he was commenting on how he liked the finishes, and he asked me a question that I've been asked several times before, and that is, how do you determine the exact finishes or the exact type of renovation you're going to do on every property when each property is very unique? You know, it's in a different neighborhood, at a different price point, it's got a different buyer, a different type of renter. So ultimately, you want to get the best finishes at, you know, the lowest price, and you don't want to over improve for the neighborhood because you're not going to get a return on that, and you don't want to under improve and make an inferior product. So today I'm going to explain the exact principles I use to make that decision. I'm Kirby Atwell, and this is Living Off Rentals, where we believe high quality rental properties are the best investment a person can make. If you're here for the first time, hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified and keep up to date when we release weekly videos on building your own rental portfolio and ultimately on how to live off rentals. So today's topic is specifically on determining the exact scope of work that you're going to put into your renovation projects. But beyond that, I think this video is going to be extremely helpful for you in making decisions in general in your business and ultimately helping your business to run much more efficiently. So a lot of times people will ask me questions like, what are the finishes that I should put into the renovation project that I'm working on? And I realize that they don't have a mental model for answering questions like this that are going to come up a lot over and over again on unique projects. So what is a mental model? It's just a process that you put similar questions through to get to an answer very quickly. So I'm going to explain the mental model that I use for making decisions on renovations for unique projects that will come up. It comes up over and over because I'm always doing a different type of project in a different neighborhood that has all these unique factors, but I have one way, a mental model for making a decision on exactly what renovations I should put into that project. And so very quickly, you'll see that the more mental models you can come up with around these decisions in your business that are going to come up over and over again, the more quickly you can make these decisions, and ultimately, the more efficient your business is going to be. The model that I use to determine the renovations that I do to a particular property consists of 3 different general questions that I ask myself. So the first question has to do with not reinventing the wheel. So a lot of times I'll walk with someone through a project that they're in the process of renovating, and they ask me, you know, should I replace the windows? Or should I finish the basement in this project? Or should I use quartz or laminate countertops? Or should I use hardwood floors or put vinyl planking on the floors? You know, and these are the questions that come up on almost every project. You know, there's not a clear-cut answer for each one of these questions, but I always ask them the same question, and that is, what is in the comps? I recently recorded this video that you can check out on how to run comps, but basically if you look at the sold properties right in this area, do they have brand new windows? Do they have hardwood floors or vinyl floors? Do they all have finished basements? And that's based on what you're planning to do with the property. So if you're looking to rent the property, I would look at rental comps. If you're looking to flip the property, I would look at the last 5 properties in a 1-mile radius that are similar to yours that just recently sold. And if they all have brand new windows, guess what? You're probably gonna have to replace the windows. If they all have vinyl flooring, then I would not pay for hardwood flooring. I would just go with vinyl. The comps are going to answer 90% of your questions. So that's great for 90% of the renovation questions that you're going to have on a house, but what about the other 10%? And so what would fall into that other 10% category that can't be determined by the comps? So an example of this might be something that's defective that you need to fix. So here at this property is a perfect example in the basement. So here at this property is a perfect example in the basement. So here at this property is a perfect example in the base. So here, this property is a perfect example. The basement was taking on water after we purchased it, and we did not expect that. So we realized eventually that the water was not going to get cleared out by the sump pump that existed, and that we were going to have to do additional waterproofing. So how do you make a decision on something like that? What I always recommend is you start with the outcome in mind, and then you get really creative. So what we did is we brought in several different waterproofers, and they gave us quotes, and that's sort of the traditional route. And then we looked at those quotes, and then we started to think, okay, how can we get to the outcome that they're proposing for a very expensive premium? How can we get there for a much cheaper price? Because ultimately, the success of your renovation is going to be determined a lot of times on how inexpensive you can get that renovation done for. You still have to deliver a great product, a high quality product, but there's a lot of unconventional ways that you could potentially get that project done. So we did some research on YouTube, we talked to a lot of different people, and I realized that the proposal that these waterproofing companies were giving me and the work that they were proposing that they were gonna do could be done by my general contractor, who was at a much less expensive rate. He could do a lot of that work. A lot of the work that they were proposing was not rocket science, and we could figure it out. And so I hired him to do it at a much cheaper rate, and we were still able to get the same result. So think through the lens of what is the result I'm after, and how can I ultimately get to that result in the least expensive way possible. Finally, if I've looked at all the comps and I've considered all the different creative ways that I could approach that specific component of the renovation, and I still can't figure out what to do, then I think about my network. Who is it in my network that's doing 5, 10, 20 of these type of projects per year? And most likely, they probably have a solution, or they have somebody that can solve it, or they have a referral that you can talk to. So then I start to think about these different people that I could reach out to who might be a subject matter expert. Don't reinvent the wheel. Rely on somebody else who has done it before. Almost every time I've done this in the past, I've come up with a viable solution to the issue. So most of the time, you're going to be able to come up with the answers yourself. You don't want to call your network with every single question, because you can figure out a lot of the questions yourself. But when you get to something that is just a stumper that you can't get beyond, then tap into that local network, because most investors believe that this is a team sport, and if they help you out, you're gonna help them out at some time in the future. There's different mental models that we use to come up with questions that will repetitively come up in your business, and you can start to think through some of the other ones and what the type of mental framework you should use to answer those questions might be. But hopefully this was helpful for you as you start to look at your next renovation project, and you start to think through, what is the exact scope of work I should be doing on this particular rehab? If you got value out of this video, give it the thumbs up. Also hit the subscribe button, because as I mentioned, we put out videos like this on topics that will help you build your portfolio and live off rentals. And finally, head on over to Facebook and join the Living Off Rentals Facebook community. It's a highly engaged group that shares information and answers questions on rental property investing related topics. It's a valuable resource, and it's totally free. So I hope to see you there, but if not, I will see you in the next video.